So often I see on groups people asking, what is the best multivitamin? What should they take? What's going to give them everything that they need? And the reality is, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but multivitamins really suck. They really are expensive poop. And there are a few reasons. Let's go over them. The first one is that you have all of these minerals together that really aren't meant to be taken together if you want to actually absorb them. Can you take them together? Yes. Should you? No. So when I work with clients, I'm going to pull out three minerals that bind to other minerals and prevent absorption. And that's calcium, iron, and copper. And when you look at most of these multivitamins, you're going to see all of those minerals along with like magnesium and iodine and zinc, and everything's going to be in there. And what's going to happen is when you take it, the calcium, the iron, and the copper is going to bind to those other minerals, and everything's going to be excreted in your stool, which is not what we want. We want to spread these minerals out. I will pull out calcium with clients and put that at one meal. I will test and first make sure that somebody even needs iron or copper, because a lot of people don't. A lot of men definitely do not need iron, and a lot of people are really copper toxic. So I'm going to pull those out. I'm going to test to see if the person needs them. And I'm going to get a multi-mineral that doesn't have any of those three. And that's like zinc and magnesium and other trace minerals like selenium and molybdenum. I'm going to put that at one meal. And by doing this, we're going to maximize absorption and maximize how our body is using our supplements, because we don't want to be spending all this money on supplements and then it's just being excreted. So we want to make sure also when I choose that multi-mineral, I'm going to test somebody's thyroid, because some people need iodine, some people do not need iodine. So we want to check these things. We don't want to just start taking all these minerals and hope for the best. And if you go and you take a multivitamin, really it doesn't matter because it's all going to be excreted anyway. But when you are working on rebuilding your health, rebuilding your body, you're going to want to know that the supplements that you're taking is right for your body and you're spreading them out to maximize the absorption. So point number two, why multivitamins really suck is there's just too many vitamins in it. So where the minerals will bind to each other and be excreted, when you're taking a bunch of B vitamins together or other vitamins all at the same time, what's going to happen is your body is going to be overwhelmed and it's all going to be excreted. Not all of it, some will be absorbed, but a lot of it's going to be excreted through something called first pass metabolism, where the body just runs it through a very quick detox and it's excreted very quickly in the urine without ever getting into the system. And that's why when I'm working with my clients, I also spread out the B vitamins, because those are the ones that we're really deficient in. And if we spread them out, we're going to maximize absorption. Now that comes to point number three, is that you need to know what forms your body needs. So if you look at different multivitamins or even a B complex, in general, you're going to see that you can have different forms of folate, you can have different forms of B12, you can have different forms of B6, and there really is a active form and a non-active form. Now, when it comes to something like B6, everybody needs the active form, P5P. But when it comes to something like folate or B12, there are multiple active forms, and different people need different things based on their genetics, their brain chemistry, and their detox pathways. So you take somebody like me. I am COMT++. So, and I have multiple gene mutations there. So I'm prone to very, very high levels of dopamine. And if I was to go and take a multivitamin or a B complex that had methyl forms of B12 and folate, this would cause me to be anxious and manic and have all sorts of mental health issues. So that form is not for me. And if you're not aware of the forms that are in your supplements and what your body is needing, you're going to often run into issues and not even realize that the supplement you're taking is the cause. Some people start taking these multi-B vitamins, or they start giving it to their kids or taking multivitamins and giving it to their children, and they start to have behavioral issues. And it's because they're giving their child or themselves the wrong forms of these vitamins. Now, you can have toxic forms in some of these vitamins, like cobalamin, which is a cyanide molecule attached to the B12 and is a really cheap form. And that obviously we don't want to be taking cyanide. So you want to be looking at these forms. You definitely don't want to be doing the really cheap synthetic forms, but you need to know what form is right for your brain chemistry and what form is right for your detox pathways. Now, there's a lot of talk about the MTHFR mutation, and that's really one small piece of this giant methylation cycle. And if you're like, oh, I'm MTHFR++, so I must need methylfolate, and you start taking all this methylfolate and you start having these symptoms, that can be a really big problem. One, you could have high dopamine levels like I do, or you could have a mutation in the methylation cycle. So methylation is this big cycle. And if you're curious about this, at the back of my book, Heal Yourself, there is a whole chart on methylation. There's a whole chapter on methylation. And it's a very big cycle. And at the bottom, your body goes through something called transsulfuration. It's where it makes the sulfur amino acids like glutathione and taurine. And if you're having a mutation on something called CBS also, but you didn't check it, and all you checked was MTHFR, then you could be driving the CBS mutation and causing your body to produce a lot of sulfur, which leads to a lot of ammonia. So this whole tangent that I went off on is basically saying, don't just grab a multivitamin. You need to test to see what forms of nutrients does your body need. Now, the other thing that people often want to go for right now is these whole food multivitamins. And if you look at the ingredients, often you'll see they're based off of spinach or beets and all these other high oxalate foods. And if you haven't heard of oxalates, I have a whole video on it. But basically, oxalates are anti-nutrients. They bind to nutrients. So it's called oxalic acid. It binds to the good stuff, so the good minerals, and then again, expensive poop happens. So we do not actually get a lot of our nutrients from high oxalate plants. So spinach, something you definitely want to avoid. It's one of the highest oxalate content foods. Almonds are up there, and buckwheat is up there, dark chocolate is up there. So sorry for all those people who are on the low carb fads. You're likely driving your oxalates through the roof. And the same thing happens when you start taking these whole food multis, because you need to take a lot more of it to get the nutrients that we could get if we were using active forms, which is using science for good. And then you're driving your oxalates up even higher. So that is why I never use a multivitamin. I do use a B complex and I do use a multi-mineral, but those are very, very specific to what a person's lab testing is showing. So I really recommend, if you're really interested in getting your health really set and working to reach optimal health, or perhaps you have chronic health issues that you're working to heal from, I really recommend getting some labs, seeing what your body needs, and getting customized supplements that are for you so that you actually start moving in the right direction versus just wasting money on supplements and literally flushing it down the toilet. So if you want to see the labs that I run, check out my 6 essential tests video. And if you are looking for a practitioner, you can go to www.sgintegrativehealing.com and we will get you those labs and we'll get you those customized protocols.